That's right. Back at it again, Full Custom Hot Dog here, doing another Blu-ray review. That's right. I'm reviewing Perdita Durango today. The film from director Alex de la Iglesia, Spanish director, does a lot of cult stuff. And I had thought I had seen more of his films. I had only seen one prior, so I wasn't too sure what I was in for. When I went to this movie, I went in thinking of the one I had seen before, which was The Perfect Crime, Crimen Perfecto, I think. Something like that. I forget. Fun movie. And everyone says his stuff are like these really dark horror comedies. And that's not exactly what we got here, at least to me anyway. This surprised. I wasn't ready for this movie when I saw it. But before we get into that, let's talk about what is on the disc. So this is a 4K release, released by Severin. So you've got one 4K disc and then one Blu-ray disc. And from what I'm noticing on these 4K releases is the Blu-ray will usually have the special features. So this has an interview with Alex de la Iglesia, interviews with the writer Barry Gifford, which all of these are very interesting, which we'll talk about here in a bit. An appraisal by film scholar Dr. Rebecca McKendry, Narcos Satanicos. Oh man, I'm half Mexican and my Spanish is terrible. Narcos Satanicos, Perdita Durango, and the Matamoros cult. Damn, that's embarrassing. Nobody tell my dad and my grandma about how bad my Spanish is. That's interviews with Abraham Castillo Flores and Cauldron of Blood author Jim Schutze. This one's really interesting because this talks about the true story behind this movie, because it is loosely based on a true story. Well, it's loosely based on a book, which is loosely based on a true story, I guess. You've also got Canciones de Amor Maldito, the music of Perdita Durango. I feel like I did good on that one. It's an interview with composer Simon Boswell, and Shooting Perdita Durango, interview with director of photography Flavio Labiano. All of these are great because there's so much that went into this movie, so much that felt like it couldn't have happened and could have gone wrong, but it didn't. Almost surprisingly, I feel. Also, I'm going to give this an A. I would have given this an A+. I'm giving a lot of A's lately, but I'm watching a lot of good stuff with special features, so it's to be expected. No commentary, which is a bummer, but I'm okay with that. The film is in 4K and looks and sounds pretty damn good. It's a big budget film here that kind of flew under the radar. They didn't know how to release this. I guess before we get into that, what is it about? Well, IMDb says, a psychotic criminal couple kidnaps a random teenage couple. The woman rapes the male captive and lets him watch his lover being raped by the man. They then plan to sacrifice the couple. Yes, that is exactly what it's about. So, from what I knew about Alex de la Iglesia, I kind of expected a little bit lighter than what I got here. So when I first watched this, I was very taken off guard. This movie's buck wild. You've got Rosie Perez as the titular character, Perdita Durango, who sort of runs into Romeo, Javier Bardem's character, which was great to see him in this. And Javier Bardem's character, Romeo, is sort of a shaman practicing Santeria, I think. If I get all the occultism stuff wrong, I apologize ahead of time. But she watches him do a crazy ceremony involving pulling a heart, doing coke, getting covered in blood, just railing out, wiling out, and she's into it. She's like, yo, I'm in love with this hunk. She comes up with the idea, hey, let's eat some people. That'll be fun and pretty wacky. And he's like, yeah, all right. So they kidnap this couple. And then they both end up forcing the couple to have sex with them. And then everyone's kind of got these weird relationships within this little circle they've built of based on pure degeneracy, and they're going to kidnap or hijack a fetus truck. And I'm not making this up. This is all in this movie. This movie's pretty crazy. In the meantime, they're being chased and hunted by James Gandolfini, who was the star of The Sopranos, Tony Gabagool. You've also got Screamin' Jay Hawkins in here as well. It's worth noting, by the way, James Gandolfini's partner in this is played by Alex Cox, director of Repo Man. They have a really funny relationship. Alex Cox plays a G-man very well, like a government official very well. And James Gandolfini does not like putting up with his shit. And it's pretty funny in this film. And that's kind of the weird part about this film. I just described a bunch of awful, terrible things. And there's more I haven't, and maybe I won't describe. And there's some really light moments and moments where you kind of hate these characters for being so despicable, but you kind of like them too, man, in the worst ways. There's a lot of awful things that happen in this movie. And it's surprising to see all of this in a film backed by a pretty high budget. Initially, Alex de la Iglesia wasn't the original director. He ended up coming on, and I don't know what the original film would have looked like, but I feel, and I'm not too familiar with Alex de la Iglesias, I'm not too familiar with all the work he's done, but knowing what I know after watching another one of his films, I feel like this would probably be the oddball in his filmography in terms of feel, and I would attribute that to him not being the original director, but I may not know. One thing that's really interesting too is, while we do know that the main character is dabbling, or not even dabbling, balls deep in mysticism, people who come close to catching him have some terrible fates put upon them, which makes this all the more interesting as you're questioning whether magic is real, whether he is really enchanted. This necklace that he wears, is this thing casting protection upon him and allowing them to do some despicable things. And it's very odd to have a movie that goes into such dark territory and you kind of like your characters and they start to like each other after being so awful to each other. This is a very, very dark film. And I say that with a question mark because there's some comedic elements as well. So the first time I watched this, I was not ready for this. This is the kind of movie that I have to know what I'm getting into before I put it on, I feel. Watching it the second time, however, I was able to enjoy it because I knew all the gnarly stuff that was going to happen. It's a wild film and a wild ride. I don't know if I could recommend this to everybody because obviously there are some sensitive subjects in this film and you might get grossed out, disgusted, potentially offended. I don't know. But I think if you're into the stuff that I talk about on this channel, this culty horror movie stuff, this is a pretty wild fit. It's like a Natural Born Killers type of film, it feels like. Maybe that's just me, but this is great. Also, one thing worth noting too, I keep saying this, there's only one thing worth noting several times. This movie is technically a spin-off of David Lynch's Wild at Heart, which I haven't seen and now I want to see. I didn't know the character of Perdita is in Wild at Heart, played by a different actress, but I'd still like to see how she is in that film. The writer talking about the character of Perdita, Barry Gifford, in one of the special features, was very interesting just because he talked about how he's writing Wild at Heart and he kind of became entranced with the idea of this character Perdita, so much so that he had to give her her own book. And so that's what he did. And she's a badass character. Rosie Perez is great. Also, you get to see her butt cheeks a ton in this movie. So if you like Rosie Perez and you like butt cheeks, this is a great cross-section for you. You're in that Venn diagram of fans of this film, probably. But she's a great character. She's hard. She's hardcore. She does not mess around. She will rough you up and kiss you and then rough you up again. And her character is great for that. It's really interesting to have such a wild character do some despicable things. Recently I had seen and talked about I Care a Lot, and that character's considered to be an anti-hero by some, even though I don't think she's particularly likable. You only root for her because you want her to overcome. But in this movie, Perdita is likable in a very strange way, even though she's a terrible person. You see how powerful she is and what she does to get whatever she wants and needs, and she just does it. So, big ups. So this isn't my first Alex de la Iglesia movie. It is my second one that I viewed. I did watch Day of the Beast as well. And so far, I have liked everything I've seen a ton. So if Severin keeps putting these things out, not only will I be excited, but they will likely be insta-buys for sure. So I definitely enjoy this film. And I'll probably watch it a third time sooner rather than later. Very surprising cast and everything. But I've said everything I could say about this film, I feel. So, of course, let me know what you think in the comments. If you are... I know some of you guys really do like Alex de la Iglesias' work a lot. Let me know in the comments. Am I right that this one kind of sticks out in the filmography? Because like I said, I don't really know. I'm just going by a hunch, I guess, considering the way I know his other films feel versus this. So does this stick out? And I guess where would you put this? Is this as good as a lot of his other stuff? His other stuff seems to be kind of crazier than this in terms of at least what I've seen with it dealing with the occult. So I don't know. You tell me. You're the fans. But let me know, of course, what you think in the comments. I'm your host, Full Custom Hot Dog. You can follow me on Twitter. It's Full Custom Hot Dog without a less O, because it's just too long for Twitter. So, thank you all for watching, and until next time. If you like what you see,
I love what I see.
Make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell for notifications so you can watch whatever comes next. And if you like the music you hear, you can follow me on SoundCloud and Spotify. Check the description for links.